Babe?
Yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
All right. You had a 1,000-yard stare there.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Still in work mode.
Yeah. Slightly distracted AJ tonight. Welcome to Married to Shade.
Hey, y'all.
Hey. How you doing today?
You know what I'm doing? It has been an interesting last 2 weeks.
Yes, it has. You know how I
Right?
know you're stressed? So my baby, a couple of months ago, managed to really unleash her awesome curl pattern, natural hair, whatever. I don't know the appropriate terms.
I cut my hair.
You cut your hair,
which did do a lot for my curl
and
pattern.
your
Thank
curl
you for
pattern is
noticing.
quite popping, is what the girls would say, the ladies would say.
Thank you.
And so I'm noticing something right now. So when you had pressed and or permed hair, and
Oh
you
gosh,
had,
that's been so long ago.
it's been a long time, but I vividly remember that whenever you would come home stressed, the front of your hair would be as far out as possible because when you're stressed, you stroke your hair like outward, so it looks like a Elvis pompadour.
That's one of my thinking aids is to pull and stretch and manipulate my my hair when I'm deep in thought. So anyway, so the last 2 weeks, very interesting. My small beloved team is changing rapidly, and I wish I had more control than I seem to have. I had an employee resign on me. I had an employee that we had to let go. So that is not fun, because not only do I need to find new talent, new team members, but also recoup the money. That is kind of what you have to do when you're at the helm of a business, when you're steering the ship. So
you're
I will
to
try not to be distracted, but I am. And yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna carry this as much as possible, baby. If I
So
have to.
How have you been?
I have been pretty good. I'm still in I don't know, like a holding pattern at work.
How nice.
Because I can feel shit popping, but it hasn't fully taken a hold yet. And I can, excuse me.
Goodness.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. My bad.
We're recording early.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, folks.
But I can tell just by the way other people are walking around that shit is real and shit gets real. So I'm just kind of, biding my time until that occurs. With that in mind, we have to backtrack because I just noticed, you see how attentive of a husband I am. I noticed that my wife just, her spirit and aura off. So before I even shuffled through the normal way to start the show, I wanted to check on you, babe. Is what
I
it was.
appreciate that. That means a lot.
You're more than welcome, and I hope you're not just saying that for the show, because I know you're going to say other mean things to me later on, probably.
Probably.
So, I'm going to hold on to this.
But no, I really do appreciate it.
Good.
But go ahead and give a shout out to our lovely Patreon
patrons. So as I was saying, this is Married to Shade. We're the only podcast and couple with advanced degrees and remedial money. And we are coming to you tonight via the Black Astronauts Podcast Network. Black Astronauts Podcast Network is a network of podcasts, black podcasters with a variety of different shows. We have the main show, it's the Black Astronauts, which covers a little bit of everything, usually hot topics. We have Houston, We Have a Problem, a ladies-led show with good hot takes on things that interest them. We have several nerd shows, review shows, a political show, and this is Married to Shade, where we kind of mix a lot of that with a bit of a familial marital bliss perspective, because we just
like that.
we exude marital bliss.
We do.
Don't listen to the show.
Hopefully you hear it in our voices.
Last show we were very happy. The show before that one we was real contentious.
I don't think we're unhappy.
Not unhappy, but sometimes we have shows where we're sparring, and sometimes we have shows where we're just giggling and massaging each other. And last week was the former.
It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. So you
and
have
that's
to be
what marriage is.
For a ride.
That's what marriage is. So with that in mind, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon patrons who make all of this podcast and greatness possible. I want to, before I shout them out, just want to point out, like, look, y'all, we appreciate all of you that have been holding us down. We have some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I think it's almost here. So stay tuned for those cool things. Make sure you check out the main show or whatever show Aaron's going to kind of announce things on. With that said, here are Patreon patrons. We'll give a shout out to Justin C. from I Do It for Hip Hop Podcast, DeAndre P., Ken H., Veggie Vixen, Ronald B., V. Williams, Feeks Beard, Peter H., Pasto Chene, Felt 5, Robbie R., excuse me, Deloya, Cynthia H., Slanda W., Wanga, Cameron B., Mr. Brent, Simo, Ashley, Chonilla, Knowledge, Dre, The Greatness That Is MJ, Donald, Ophelia Ono, Teddy Funk, Charlie Snowflake, Nikki M., Devo G., Willis Dickfit, Shadrach C., Shauna E., Ariana, Jordan H., Pam M., and Scrum Master Flash.
I'm going to apologize to the people who you just yawn through their names.
Who did I yawn through? Did I yawn in the middle of that? I did.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Yawns are like a reflex. It's like saying I blinked through the middle of it. Like I don't.
They are, and they're unnecessary.
Yawns are not unnecessary.
No, I think there's really like no purpose for yawns.
Like,
I don't know. You can Google that.
Okay, so scientifically, maybe there's no purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no reason
but that doesn't mean
for a body or for a person to have to yawn. And they're supposed to be contagious. So looking at you yawn, what have you done it? You've done it.
This is like, I guess that's my third yawn now.
I should yawn, but
you don't fuck with me like that.
I'm not yawning. Yeah, there's no connection.
I can't force you to do anything.
So let me bring as we get set for the show.
Oh no, we ready to go.
Something positive, right?
Okay, yes, positive
so
stuff.
I am sitting looking at our newest piece of art.
See, babe, this is why. This is why I keep telling you we are new Negro.
I hate that term. I really hate that term.
Then you should learn
really
how to not say we're looking at our newest piece of art, and you need to package that differently.
So how should one package it? We have a new piece of art.
We have a piece
hanging on the wall.
We got a new headboard for our bed that happens.
So we opted not to do a traditional headboard. We had one. We got rid of it. Gone. We've tried to create this sort of minimalist aesthetic to our room, and part of that is putting up a new staple piece of art behind our bed in place of a headboard to kind of anchor and center the room. Right. Was that good packaging?
No, that was quite bougie, but I enjoyed it, but that's because I'm your husband.
Well, whatever. It's art and I like it, and
like within that
looking
phrase,
at it is making me smile, making me get ready for the show.
That's good.
Getting me away from work. And so I want to share that with the world.
Well, I'm happy. That's why we got it. So that makes sense. So, last we talked to you all, we were preparing for a well-deserved, what is it? A fucking break. Was that the commercial? It's like when you have kids, it's like take a fucking break. Because it was like a medicine. And that's not going to carry it. The comedy of that isn't going to work if you haven't seen the commercial.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's basically about people who are relatively young parents that are tired of shit because they have kids, and kids make you tired of shit.
It wears you out. It really does.
Yes. But Nana came 2 weeks ago just in time for us to go see Black Panther.
Yes.
And I know we're a week late, essentially, a week and a half now at this point. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I I can still talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still talking about it.
I can still talk about the shit.
I'm in the Black Panther discussion group.
I'm also there, although I
don't discuss
low.
much. Haven't really discussed anything, but I'm loving the memes.
Yep.
And the exposure to other folks' thoughts and comments and just
the think
general
pieces.
Excitement about the movie. Yeah, the think pieces. So we went to see the movie.
2 of which written by yours truly on blackastronauts.com right now.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. And you did a cool infographic. But we can get into
I
that
did
after we review the movie because I think it's very important.
Well, let's not review the movie per se because the reviews are... let's talk about. Let's get into the shit.
Yes, let's talk about the metaphors.
Because I'm gonna tell y'all this. Y'all may have heard people talk about the movie, but damn it, we got advanced degrees. So we about to get into that.
I don't want
to
build the hype up. I don't know. I don't know. I may let somebody down, but I'm gonna tell you how I really feel. I'm gonna tell you what I really saw, and I'm gonna tell you why I appreciated this film. And yeah, it's not gonna be a traditional review because that seems a little boring.
Yeah, we're quite past that.
Yeah. So. Black Panther, man. So I know read some of the Black Panther comics and things like that. I'm a Marvel movie head, right? Movie head.
You've seen every single last one?
I have seen every Marvel movie, but I'm not a comic book head, right? So I'm learning as I go. So when I went into the movie from a comic book perspective, I just was riding on my Marvel hype. Like I really didn't know what to expect, right? But Marvel's never disappointed me, so I figured I'd be safe in that regard. Yeah. Like it would be a pretty good comic book movie.
We both thought that. So what I went into it thinking was that I was going to get Meteor Man, a modern like black super. You haven't seen Meteor Man? Don't make that face.
How do you know what I've seen?
Because you lack culture.
I have seen Meteor. Wow,
it's just the truth.
You tried it. I have seen Meteor Man.
Okay. Which your face tells me that you lack culture. When I said Meteor Man,
my face,
yeah,
I have a cultureless face.
So I said
Is
medium.
That something you say to your wife?
Yeah, if this the truth, and I have to let it be known.
Because
if I say Meteor Man to people with culture, they smile. And you were
Proceed with your fuckery. No, I've seen Meteor Man. Okay, and I liked Meteor Man.
Right. So my point is that I did not. I thought I was going to get a cool, fun Marvel version of a black comic book character. I knew early on. So first little tidbit for those who don't know, this Black Panther in the movie is very different than the comic book version of Black Panther. And that was indicated in the last movie he was in, Civil War, because he just wasn't as cutthroat as Black Panther is in the comics. And I was okay with that because I was fine with that. I didn't really necessarily want African Batman, which is kind of what he is in the comics. And so I thought we were going to get like a happy-go-lucky, like an Ant-Man type of thing. And
yeah, so when you say, when you say Meteor Man, if I remember correctly, was sort of goofy, right?
It was goofy. It was a comedy first.
I wasn't expecting goofy, but you were expecting goofy?
I wasn't expecting goofy per se, but I wasn't expecting psychoanalysts, and I wasn't expecting deconstructionist theory and semiotics in this movie. You know what I'm saying?
It got deep.
I wasn't expecting it to get so deep and like I just wasn't expecting that. And I cried. I ugly cried.
Yeah, you did. Like I had to nudge you, right? It was
She pulled all that progressive feminist shit went out the door real quick when I started crying in public. She was like, "Nigga, no, stop." Nigga, fucking compose yourself, nigga.
Yeah, it was rough. Movie. It was rough on him, but I think it was a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
You've lost your aunt, and and it was just it was a movie that she would have appreciated. So
she would have loved
it. So I got it. So let's dive into the metaphor. So Black Panther may not be the Black Panther of the comic books, but most folks did not read the comic books. At least the folks I'm running into.
He is a C-tier character before. So non-black people, he is a C-tier character.
Gotcha.
Not even B tier.
So the first.
Well, hold on. Let's set the stage.
Go.
Black Panther is a examination of the many psychological elements of not just the black experience, but the experience of the diaspora.
Yes.
You have to start there because if you've been paying attention to non-black and non-melanated in general, I'm sorry, non-melanated, non-black in general reviews. A lot of folks think this movie's about like Donald Trump and immigration.
I kept hearing
they call it very political.
Folks saying it was political,
and I get it.
Right?
It's there,
but I also, pro-black, right, is often deemed political, right? You can't be pro-black and not be political. Right. So that's kind of how I classify that.
That's what I think people were saying, and that was there to an extent. But no, this shit was just it was black psychological theory. It was African American studies. It was bell hooks and Frantz Fanon.
Yeah, it really was. There was a ongoing discussion between members of the diaspora, not just from the motherland or from the continent of Africa to folks in America, but literally like wherever you are,
right?
You felt and could connect if you connect with your Afro roots, right?
Your connection to the diaspora.
Yes. Then you also like that conversation throughout the film really resonated with you.
Definitely.
So
it was very much
hopefully folks have seen it by now, but let's get into how I think it's important to kind of outline.
I don't know if we're going to be able to outline it step by step. Let's just kind of just
or how it
walk
works
through the shit. I want to start with that.
So
it's a conversation between the diaspora and the motherland.
Yeah.
And so we start there.
So in the movie Killmonger, the villain,
Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, is a Wakanda descendant yes.
of
the people of Wakanda.
He's a descendant of Wakandan royalty.
Wakandan royalty, who is raised in America, who loses his father, who was a spy, who was a Wakandan spy operating in America. Is pretty much the thing you have to know.
That's the foundation for him.
The foundation. And so in that his experience was a modern adaptation, right? Eliminating a lot of ugliness of the experience of most people of the diaspora, right?
But explicitly though, to add on to that, of black excellence under the weight of white supremacy. Because you have to also remember, Killmonger was from Oakland, but he made it to MIT, and I don't know if they said he got his PhD, but it might.
I don't think he went all that.
But still,
I know
MIT
that he
is
went
all you.
He was in the military.
Right.
He was a trained assassin. He was an elite.
Right. He was elite,
right, in the government
by
eyes.
nature, but not by birth, even though technically he was also elite by birth, but that was stripped from him early on. And he never got to access that.
And that's the part that mirrors the experience of
black
most
excellence.
of us.
And most of us in general.
And of the diaspora, right? And so, of course, that I'm sure folks know that the diaspora is just the spreading out of people of African descent, right? So your origins are from Africa, but you live in America, or you live in South America, Central America, or the Caribbeans, or wherever you may be, right, in the world. And so specifically, if you are African American, you definitely were stripped of your ancestral ties because you came here by force and not by choice, right? So, most of us can only go back but so far in our ancestry, right? And if you are in tune, as we said in the beginning, with your African heritage, that's disappointing and that's hurtful and that leaves a void, right? Because we know our history didn't start with slavery, right? But what we know of our history before slavery, it lacks a certain level of personalization because we really can't, or I mean, I guess there are ways now, but most of us don't
those ways
know
are
how exactly where we came from on the continent.
Those ways to connect back to the continent are artificial in nature, or artificial in comparison to our white friends and our Asian friends. We have a Asian friend who at their wedding had all the official Vietnamese accoutrements, and then her brother's wedding just recently had the same thing. And even though she married a white man, he got to engage in that exchange of culture. Our wedding, we jumped over a broom. Now I'm sure that I've actually heard that is actually happen to harken back to some African traditions, but it's a facsimile, you know what I'm saying, of things we managed to hold on to, as opposed to a clear pastime of generational culture through diasporic generations. And so Killmonger immediately starts to represent all these symbols. He is the diaspora because his origins are in Africa. He is denied access to that, and in his denial, he finds on one level purpose to go get back to it. But in pursuing that purpose, he is corrupted because his purpose is born out of a colonial mindset.
Yeah, he's a product of colonization.
Yeah, colonization.
Colonization. Yeah. Thank you. I knew it was wrong. Thank you. Help me out.
That's all right.
So, so he's a product of what he's lived under. So he has angst, right? When you know that you were from something greater, but there's a disconnect between you and that greatness, it makes you furious.
Right.
It makes you angry. You know, who was it? Was it Baldwin who said
to be black and something in America is to be in a constant state of rage.
Yes. And so that's that lived rage, right, is what we see in Killmonger, and that's what where he gets his like villain.
And it's also because his
presence from
his identity development is colonial in nature, and he does not want to reject colonialism and capitalism essentially as the baseline way to see the world, which is why when he finally gets back to his roots, he only see one way of handling the situation. Let's bring us to the first big debate, although I think it's starting to whine, which is, was Killmonger a hero? Was he right? Yada yada yada.
So I don't know. So was he a hero? No, wasn't a hero, right? Because he wasn't even able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish, which was sending resources out to
more so
members of the diaspora.
His acts weren't heroic.
But he wasn't.
So we gonna have to fight? Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
That's knuckle up, nigga. So let's go.
So all of his acts weren't heroic, right?
Right.
He definitely was doing some self-serving stuff because he had a chip on his shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had been divorced from his promise, from his purpose, from his royal lineage, right? So yeah, he was a man with a mission. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to claim what was his, and that was all personal. But then there was this understanding of like, okay, so I am royalty, and in this place I come from is rich in resources, because Wakanda, by the way, you've seen it hopefully, is not is not colonized. So he knew, like, so then there was like this the anger that came from knowing that when I get back there, the place I'm trying to get back to has resources, and not only are those resources due to me, but those resources can help advance people who look like me in every place that they're hurting. Right. So when you say, were all his acts heroic? No, they weren't, but there was a heroic element. There was a greater good bend to what he was trying to do.
There's a portion of his intentions that are inarguably correct, which is and this is where people get the Donald Trump metaphor, which is if you have, and to an extent you owe, then you need to give, which is, you see what I'm saying? Like, Wakanda has the resources.
Mm-hmm.
They owe those resources to,
go ahead.
You don't think they owe those resources to the diaspora?
I don't know if they owe those resources to the diaspora.
So maybe,
I don't know.
So maybe
I don't
that's
know.
that's where the metaphor with Trump kind of breaks down, because America owes the world for all that we do.
Correct.
Yada yada
Yeah.
yada. Maybe Wakanda doesn't.
Wakanda wasn't a nation of colonizers,
right?
So they didn't.
But
they
definitely
didn't
need
owe.
to give, and like there's just there's a cold indifference to watch what's going on in the world. The first scene of the movie is this like computer graphical like rendition of the history of the world, and they explicitly show that Wakandans knew that slavery happened, and Wakandans knew that wars were breaking out, and they were sitting there probably during slavery. They were in the in our age, they were probably building internet by the time slavery was happening. Because they're hundreds of years in the future.
I imagine it was an evolution to get Wakanda to where it was, right?
Right.
So they knew all of this stuff was going on, but they were also developing as it went on.
No, that's
and they had watched what happens when you expose yourself or you are exposed to the greater world, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think they had a very reasonable fear of what engagement with the outside world would mean. So,
that I get that, especially if you just theorize that, okay, excuse me, in the 1600s when the Atlantic slave trade really started popping. I'll look that up. At whatever point in time, if you just imagine whatever point in time the slave trade started, Wakanda was in 2018 technological advances. As it says, they're hundreds of years ahead of everybody else. That's not so much to say they couldn't still get overtaken by the world's power. All the concerted efforts of Europe.
Yeah, I think
they didn't have bombs yet, but they had numbers.
So yeah, they could have been overtaken. Even if they weren't overtaken, like I think throughout the movie, one of the struggles in Wakandan leadership, to include the struggle of Black Panther, is like boundaries, right?
Right.
And so you can't show Wakanda to the world, right? And without already kind of having a sense of an understanding of what your limits as Wakanda will be, right? So I think what they knew is like, okay, so we fix this issue here, right? But it's like a leaking boat, maybe.
There's a phrase
would be the analogy where things are gonna, like I'm thinking of cartoons where there's like 50 million holes in a ship, and like somebody's trying to use all their
limbs. There's a great phrase I got from my first ever English teacher mentor, who was a racist and tried to get it so I couldn't teach anywhere else. But she had this great phrase. It's like, put in socks on an angry octopus. And that's definitely true. And so there's reason to be hesitant on looking at Wakanda as a pure villain of austerity and saying we're not going to share, etc.
And then you have to also think. So I think this is how one of the ways that maybe the movie resonated with the people who are still on the continent, right? The connection and the longing for them is not always reciprocated on their end, right?
Right.
Because they stayed, right? And they know who they are.
Right.
And their lives are enriched by that, right?
And
that void is not
there.
and it's not even a hate to be us. That void is not there. So, and so I think there is a bit of a cognitive disconnect when looking at us, because even though we look like them, our lived experience is so different. Our talk, our presentation, our posture, our approach to problem solving, which was the Killmonger issue, is so different that it makes us in some ways unrecognizable. So it's easy for us as the children removed, lost, to say, hey, help, why don't you help, I need your help. But for them, it's like
we look like lepers.
We look, yeah,
You know?
we look so unrecognizable, and that of course is the byproduct of colonization. That was the goal.
That's the colonialized mind, right?
That was the goal.
And that was represented in the movie. You have this. So at a certain point, Killmonger gets to drink the special potion to make him into Black Panther, which sends you in a trance state. And this is a cool thing. I can't remember where I caught this from. So when T'Challa, the real Black Panther, drinks this potion and gets to commune with his ancestors and his father, he sees Wakanda. He sees this mystical, beautiful plane of light,
rich colors,
and color and magic, and he is dressed in white linens, and everybody else is in their garb, and it's just like, yes, beautiful. And he has this he has a deep conversation both times, excellence. Even though the second time is in a different situation, but it's clear that is the world to him. And when Killmonger visits that same plane, all the beauty is on the outside, but his world is still in his project apartment. He doesn't see the beauty of the diaspora. He doesn't see the homeland. He can only see that through the filter of his window in the project home where he found his father dead. And then he's not wearing any type of beautiful whatever. He's just wearing a hoodie. He's just wearing a hoodie. His father's wearing the linens, I think. Sure. No, was he not?
I think he was in his regular clothes. I'm not sure. That's why we have to see it again.
Let's see it again. But he's still in the hoodie, and that to me was when the movie started becoming great. It went from good to top 5, top 3.
Oh, there were so many moments.
Yeah, but that's when I knew Marvel either. So here's one argument I've had. Marvel should be like, I'm slightly offended that Marvel is who gave us this movie.
See,
part of me is like bitter.
I'm not. So prior to to seeing the movie, right, I did everything but look at spoilers of any sort, which they did a great job of protecting the movie and like making sure that people who saw it didn't review it early and all that good stuff. So thank you, Marvel and Disney. But I watched an interview with Chadwick, and he, and they challenged him, and they were like, people are saying, look who it took to get us a movie this profound that's going to speak to members of the diaspora in the way that it's going to speak to, and have all these in-house conversations in it and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, we have to be careful not to be racist against ourselves. I don't know if I love that phrase, work, right? But what he was saying is the leadership in or at Disney and on behalf of Marvel that were responsible for managing this project, if you will, were brown people. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Disney is not necessarily, it's not a,
Disney. It's a giant evil corporation.
It's Disney. I know it. I know there's a lot of problems. You don't have to yell them out. But they chose the right folks to be in the room. Right. For this. And so because of that, I am not bothered or distracted, or my excitement and my joy isn't diminished by their involvement. Because if you choose, what we've seen in pop culture, mainstream news as of late with like the H&Ms and like I think Apple had a gaffe and just all these other organizations, right? Mm-hmm. Is that they don't bring the right people to the room.
They keep trying to sell us and sell to us without allowing us,
without including us in the conversation, right? Right. And so I respect that they included us in the conversation.
Right. Well, and that's my thing is that it wasn't just including, like, I'm still of the mind that Marvel didn't know how much blackness went into the movie. I just don't think they fully got it.
Yeah, you got the medicine and the candy. Is that the phrase?
Yeah.
Like, I think also there's a lot, kudos, hats off to Ryan Coogler, who obviously feels a responsibility to talk to his people, African Americans, or people of African descent in this case, to show, to have us represented appropriately and show the diversity amongst us. And so, yeah, I think that just like a lot of our non-POC counterparts who are reviewing the movie, they just saw politics and then superhero that
they saw the things that they could relate to.
Didn't or didn't did or didn't like. Yeah,
they caught some cool visuals. They caught some overt conversations about immigration and isolationism and nationalism, which were easy to catch. And they didn't catch the message that the colonized mind shouldn't just re-enter the motherland thinking that, okay, I'm here now I'm in charge. That was one of our friends is what is Rock? Ghanaian?
I'm not sure.
He's some type of West African. And he talked about, and it was very true, and this was played out in the movie, how we have in our heads that, everybody talks about, let's go back to Africa and get back to the motherland and change and collect our resources, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is, and this is, I think, something that Africans would see, and they see in us even when they're here, that we wouldn't go back to Africa and be like, how can we contribute? Where do we go? We would go back to Africa and be like, okay, now that we're here, this is what we're going to do.
How can we be in charge? Let us lead. We know better.
This is our plan. We know better.
We know better because we've been out there in the world, and we know. I mean, we have a reason,
and that's what Killmonger essentially was doing.
To be angry, and that is exactly what he was doing. And I understood it as an African American, but I do believe, like I was saying, that it spoke to Africans differently. It justified their caution sometimes in how they deal with us.
Right.
But hopefully it also showed the complexity of our existence, right? And our love and understanding, and in some instances misunderstanding of our place and our ownership of the richness of the continent. Right. One of the things that I found interesting when you talk about colonizers is, so when Killmonger finally gets to Wakanda, there's like this back and forth, right, between Killmonger coming in and kind of introducing himself, or like, with swagger kind of walking into the kingdom, and a scene that's juxtaposed, to a scene with Shuri.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? The princess speaking to a colonizer who has been brought to Wakanda, and he is telling Shuri who Killmonger is, right? And so we've already come to know in the story that Killmonger is the child of royalty. He's actually a Wakandan, all that kind of stuff. The colonizer doesn't know or doesn't care to even reconcile why he's here with what else is going on and kind of dig deep and unpack that to understand who he really is, right? The colonizer immediately goes into who he is to him, right? And so he's like, or what he sees. So he's like, he is a killer. He is, a trained assassin. He is this. He is that, right? We've programmed him. He's one of our guys. And all these things, many of them negative about him. And that is very much
that's a colonial mindset.
That's very much the lived experience of a lot of members of the diaspora, especially the lived experience of African Americans. We know who we are, right? And we have to know who we are, and we have to keep that front of mind as we navigate the world. But constantly we're bumping up against people who are telling us who we are based on either what they need, their diminished expectations, their insecurities, or based on what they want us to be.
I haven't quite figured out how to say it. It was the last in my head I was going to do 5 blogs, but I'm stuck on 3 and I'm probably not going to finish it. But this movie is kind of a visual manifestation of Du Bois's double consciousness, in that we have this dichotomy of how we understand self versus how our self is projected upon us by everybody else. Yes. And that's a perfect example of that. And there's all these dichotomies in the movie. Let's get to male and female. let's get to Okoye and Wakabi.
Let's get to it.
AKA Michonne from Walking Dead and dude from Get Out. I don't watch Walking Dead either, but I know she's Michonne because she's a very popular character. And probably to me the most powerful visual moment on the screen. At the end,
when they're having the battle.
So real quick rundown for those who you've all seen it. If you haven't seen it,
if you haven't, we're just ignoring you because it's our conversation. Turn it off.
Right, basically. So yeah, we have that ultimate moment of black love, I would call it. And this negotiation of several conversations about black. I'll make sure to point out black hetero love because there was some issue with LGBTQ communities feeling like they were left out, especially since I believe Okoye's character is gay.
See, I don't know if she was or wasn't,
but that wasn't there, so I just want to acknowledge that before we keep moving. So within the movie, it's not a very strongly built romance, but it's built that they are in love and they are together. Wakabi, much like, and I described this in my blog, Wakabi is a boiling volcano of rage. And Daniel Kaluuya's acting to me is probably the best performance in the whole movie because although he never breaks into his rage, he manages to convey every time he talks on screen that he is at the edge of exploding every time something doesn't go the way he wants to go. His first conversation with T'Challa is like, hey, I can hit the streets. I can
get the boys and we can get them.
And we can make all this happen. You would never have to worry about something with your father again if you let me take the people and get it popping. And he's denied that. And then when he's denied the revenge against Andy Serkis's character, and then Killmonger pops up. Killmonger is basically his id presenting him with his greatest desires.
Yes.
And saying, hey, fuck with me, I got it. And that's what he does. He betrays his boy. He betrays his land to an extent. And he jumps with Killmonger because at this moment, this is what he's been trying his best to hold back. And he's at his wit's end. And I describe that as how so many black men feel in this country. Black men who are compromising, who are, the only black worker in a white office space or a white blue collar space where you are trying your best to not let that next comment, that next dirty look,
or the microaggression,
next microaggression, or the next time you see in the news that a black boy or a black man or a black woman or a black girl has been shot or brutalized by the police or by somebody, you are trying not to go crazy, but let it happen a certain way. Let somebody present
not
you
a killer, but don't push.
Right. And that's basically what happens there. And then we have Okoye, who, and I don't know if you read my second one about, I kind of tried to, because I didn't want to go too deep because I knew it wasn't my space. But Okoye represents, and Dora Milaje represent this idealized image of black womanhood.
Yes.
And black femininity. Because they are powerful, but they're also still nurturing and maternal and beautiful, and all these things. And it's essentially the last battle is her literally fighting him to get him back to where he needs to be mentally.
Yes.
And it's not until it's not until she puts the spear to his throat that he pauses for a second and looks around and recognizes the air of his rage, and then he kneels. He could have just put his hands up.
He could have.
You know what I'm saying? Like Coogler is clearly, I'm understanding, literally a visionary director. Everything he did in this movie was purposeful. He definitely kneeled before Okoye and submitted to her righteousness in the moment. Go ahead, babe.
Oh, no. I was just loving it. I mean, you said it. That visual was very powerful. So Okoye, she did represent the complexities, dynamicism of an African American woman. But I happen to think that they showed you through all of the African American characters. the richness and the fullness of what it is to be an African American woman, right? So I don't think any one particular character has ownership of that, but I love your breakdown of what she represented. Sorry, but going back to, I'm sorry, I said like represented it in something else.
I'm gonna edit it all out, baby.
No, don't edit it out. It's
I'm
real.
not.
I mean, it's
not.
called talking, and when you do it for a while, you mess up. This is not a scripted show. So anyway, the visual was powerful because, like you said, she had to fight him.
Right.
She had to fight him back.
Battle. It was
a battle. And you see, you know, I often see in my timeline a lot of memes about the relationship between black men and black women. Why can't we talk to each other? Why do we do this to each other? Why do we do that? Oh, black men don't get black women, don't care about black women. Black women don't get black men, don't want to fall in line. And so it was powerful to see that this angst that exists sometimes in the way that we relate to each other is maybe a necessary step towards harmony, healing, and understanding.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was initially, as they went into the last scene, part of my heart dropped because I was like, oh, I don't want the Wakandans to fight amongst each other. I don't want them to fight each other. I don't want the tribes to fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, they should all be together. And then then as I saw it play out, I was like, no, this is no longer a movie. This is just a conversation. Because how can we really act like we're gonna fight anybody? How we're gonna make any progress
until we deal with things amongst ourselves.
Man, until we,
at one point you had all the men in a circle around the women.
Yes,
right.
Trying to box them in. Right. Yes.
Trying to get them to fall in line, trying to get them to divorce themselves from their power. Right. But we understand throughout the movie that the power that the women of Wakanda are encouraged to embrace is the lifeline. Right. And what sustains and helps to protect the integrity of the country, right?
And then it was the most purely masculine man that came to provide the lifeline for them in that scene. That's when M'Baku, the breakout star of the movie, M'Baku, who somehow we haven't mentioned this whole time.
Yeah.
He shows up, and he's the only person that presents any type of problematic attitude towards women overtly in the movie. But when push came to shove, he wasn't about to let the black woman be pushed, and so he came through like, look, we here, just cut that shit out. You know what I'm saying? And it was the betas that were trying to box the women in, which is very much how it actually goes. It's never the alpha males that are well, no, let me not say that.
No, sometimes
there's certain ways in which alpha males box women in, but the way that beta males do it is, to me, the most toxic and sinister because they often act like they're not really doing anything. We're getting a little bit further away from things. So let's talk about church. Because that to me was the most interesting.
So I wanted to talk about survivor's remorse first.
Okay, survivor's remorse.
I think I wanted to talk about survivor's remorse.
Definitely.
So it was clear that T'Challa, who once he realized his cousin had been out here struggling in the world, and then once he had an up close and personal view of the damage that was done, right? And also like Killmonger had all these scars or these markings for all his kills on his body. And what you come to understand is really he had been killing, and each scar, each kill represented his undying desire and quest and push toward getting to Wakanda, right? So he had all these scars just for this end purpose, just to this end, to get to Wakanda. So when his cousin sees this, right? Like it's you can see it. It's he has a scar, marked up body. It's hard to ignore. It's uncomfortable. I think he immediately started to have survivor's remorse. He immediately realized the burden of his privilege, right? And
make
think
no mistake, T'Challa was a man of privilege.
Oh, of course. He was a prince.
It was his privilege that brought him back to life.
Yeah.
The fact that he had familial and environmental
But the fact that he was a prince, he had a 2-parent household.
Right.
We saw that. He was raised in a place of abundance, and a place filled with love. And that was very very different than Killmonger's upbringing and his experience. So anyway, it really parallels the experience of the African American middle class, but and then I'd say upper middle class, or the African American elite, because if you are woke, and I hate to use that word because sometimes it's overused, but if you're a woke African American elite, right? And elite, we don't even have to go that far. If you're woke and you got to go to college, right?
You got to read some books.
You got to read some books.
You've attained I think we talked about this.
You have a steady job with benefits.
Right.
If you're woke and you have just those things, there is a sense, especially when you watch the news and you see some of the ways our people are mistreated and abused, you feel uncomfortable. You feel guilty for making it to wherever you are at the moment, for being safe sometimes.
Right.
And so T'Challa had the haze, it was constantly struggling throughout much of the movie after the introduction of Killmonger with survivor's remorse. I do believe that T'Challa could have actually beat Killmonger when he was challenged for the throne. I think he chose to throw it, and he chose to be sent into isolation, right? Or I think he let himself go.
Even if it wasn't on purpose, his mind wasn't in the right place.
His mind wasn't in the right place.
Maintain his privilege. Because think about what that would have been. That would have been. It's like it's like I remember coaching. Not coaching, but I remember being part of a football program at a certain school in the suburbs. No, fuck that. I remember my own football experience. I remember thinking this myself, even though nobody said it. Like, I remember being, I'm from the suburbs, and I was at a high school that was predominantly black, but it was like predominantly black middle class, handful of white middle class, handful of everybody else. And I remember the first game of the season, every season, we play some school from the south side. And here we are with our full field and full uniforms. We had a team dinner. We got cheerleaders. We got all the shit you're supposed to have. It's like 40 of us on the team. We look across the sideline, it's like 15 of them. And that's all they could muster to play football for their school. And we smashed them. Every year we smashed them. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. And I remember thinking, even though I didn't get on the field during this activity, I remember thinking to myself, this isn't cool. This is unfair. Like, these folks, like these boys just happy to be playing. You know what I'm saying? It's 15 of them. For those who don't know, you got to have at least 11 people on the football field at once. And it's not like basketball where you take like a lot of breaks. Well, I guess you take a lot of breaks. But like, that's physically demanding as hell, because those 11 people have to play 2 positions the whole game. Some people did not come off the field. So of course he beat them by 40 points. And so you look at T'Challa. Yeah, Killmonger had MIT. He had military training. T'Challa is trained by the most technologically advanced nation in the world, and yada yada yada. He really isn't losing that.
He's not. He's definitely not
in reality, not in real life.
He threw that. His guilt caused him to throw that fight.
Right.
He felt like it's survivor's remorse. He felt like he had been winning, unbeknownst to himself, for so long that he owed one to his cousin. Right. And I think that's kind of then, once he does come back and everything, that's the tone of the rest of the film. Right. It is the struggle of survivor's remorse. Right.
Him coming to
and
grips
reconciling his privilege against the struggles of his other brothers and sisters, his other people who look like him.
Him recognizing the family secrets, which is another thing that happens, and that definitely appeals and birds itself in the conversation about diaspora. That every family has secrets. We talk about it all the time. The things that we didn't learn until we were married with our own kids about our own family, because such and such is about to die and spilt the tea on the deathbed. And it's and that's what happened there. When you have an image of your family and the gains you've made because of them in certain cases, and suddenly that image is tarnished or destroyed in this case.
Yeah. And then you have the I won't spend a lot of time on it, but then there's the divorcing ourselves from the methods and practices of our ancestors in order to continue to advance our people. So when he found out about the family secrets, and even before then, you could also see there was an internal struggle, because it was like, okay, this is a new day, this is a new age, I'm a new person, this is a new, Wakanda. This is a new Wakanda, and we got to meet these problems with some new strategies. Mm-hmm. We got to be innovative here. But there was rules, and rituals, and and a whole bunch of do's and don'ts from the ancestors that he was encouraged to follow. And once, he used the family secrets as fuel to divorce himself from those standards and those antiquated practices in order to really make the moves necessary to advance the people. And so I think, like, as young African Americans, there's a lot of discussion sometimes about, like, who are our leaders? Who's our MLK? Right. Who's our this one? Who's our that one? They would have done it this way. Do we still march? Is marching relevant? And I think, like, those conversations are necessary, I'm realizing, and very healthy, because at some point, if we're going to take this thing to the next level, you have to, and that's also a parallel to, like, the child parent sort of dynamic. Yeah, and the church dynamic. But you have to, and the church dynamic, you have to at some point say, okay, I appreciated what you did. It got us to this point. I respect that you used what you had and made the decisions based on what you knew. But now I need the space to do that for myself.
Allow me to stand on your shoulders. Yeah. Which is getting to one of my homeboys, almost Rock, who's on the show. He's a theologian.
Theologian, yes.
Theologian. Mm-hmm. And he compared it to the black church, which I thought was a really poignant metaphor for the constant conflict that older black generations and newer black generations are still having, because older black generations dealt with a very different type of racism than we deal with, and had very different standards of acceptability than we have developed. And we've only been able to develop those new standards based on their accomplishments. However, I think a lot of them don't recognize the necessity to continue moving. We keep on having that conversation. Where are our leaders? Where are our leaders? Well, maybe the concept of that unifying leader is a relic of old. And social media and media in general, and the times and the attention spans of the people, mean that we don't have, like, that one unifying leader for a 10, 15, 20 year period. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to get. And we are now at a point, unfortunately, where I think we've missed out on a opportunity to fully build with our elders, because now the elders, enough of them have passed that now their power just doesn't have the sway it had before. And we have now relegated Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and the ones that from that era that are still functioning to either obsolete or elderly. We saw Who do we see this last a couple weeks
Reverend
ago?
Lowry.
We saw Joseph E. Lowry literally the week after couple days after we saw Black Panther.
Who encouraged us in church, and it was so beautiful to
stay woke,
and work woke.
Woof,
Yeah,
woof.
I'm struggling.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
I still
it's
love
a struggle.
you. I still love you.
At least I'm present, not thinking about work.
Yeah, you can't even say the word.
Yeah.
And so, and that's so real. And that's one, and that's one of the conflicts there, because I'm sure there's a lot of Black people who are trying to do work for communities, and they're finding their ability to galvanize these older power brokers behind things like LGBTQ equality in the movement.
True.
And sexual empowerment of the women, and just natural hair and dreadlocks, like all those things. Like, I'm not going to name names,
Ridiculous.
but we both know people who are older who have access to power.
Yes, we do.
Who are Black and who have all the indicators that they should be down and woke and stay woke and work woke,
and are not.
And will straight up say, this nigga with dreadlocks, I can't fuck with him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
2018. And so that's the thing. And so now, and again, bringing it back full circle, because we've already had an hour. I thought we were going to do a half hour Black Panther. We did a whole hour. We're going to try to touch on, we got to touch on this other shit. So we're going to move on.
Yeah.
But, and so that brings us back to, and that's why we love the movie so much, because we hardly talked about the movie, the cool fight scenes and the dope ass Dora Milaje costumes.
But it was beautiful. Cinematography was awesome.
But
awesome. Costuming was awesome as well.
The outfits we wore, we were bad. Check out
awesome.
the network. Even though, sorry, AJ, let me not say that.
What?
Because you didn't like the picture I posted.
Oh no, it was good.
Okay.
My outfit was still good.
Oh,
Face wasn't, but outfit was good.
She was dope.
But yeah, so the movie though, you're right. We didn't talk about the movie. I don't think we have to, because the movie it speaks for itself.
Right.
The numbers are ridiculous. Visually, the movie was impressive. It had all the necessary elements you expect from a Marvel film, and so that stuff doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
But the conversations that are happening as a result of this movie are absolutely brilliant, and they bring me joy, and they give me life.
And I can't wait to see what happens next.
I can't wait to see what else is created, and I can't wait to see the initiatives that are stood up in our community, for our community. I know
the response of the children.
Yes, the response of the children. I know Disney did something.
They started a STEM program.
Yes, they donated $1 million to STEM centers in Atlanta, New Orleans, someplace else.
But it's also super cool that, like, our oldest. So they've had a Black Panther toy for like a year now.
They called Batman.
And they called him Batman until Black Panther came out.
They called him Batman.
And now we can hear our oldest son in there like, no, that's Black Panther. That's Black Panther. And like, I showed him a Black Panther cartoon today, and he was all about it. And I just can't wait to see the result of even just decolonizing his fantasy.
Yeah.
Because our fantasies were colonized.
Mm-hmm.
Clueless and the X-Men. X-Men had a couple Black folks in it. Clueless did too, but it was still very much.
Don't speak of her. The name we shall not say. Voldemort.
So speaking of names we shall not say, we will, because of significant acts in the world. Speak on 45 and what just happened in Florida. And what's happening nationwide with the kids, and some of the things that are happening,
which is beautiful. So I'm good with
us.
speaking about the kids.
Right.
So everybody knows, unfortunately, we lost 17 high schoolers. Well, no, we lost a combination of high schoolers and teachers in a school shooting. The total number of individuals lost was 17 people. Right. I think I can say it that way. And it was just another tragedy, unfortunately, amongst a growing list of school shootings resulting in the
there's more. They're happening
life.
at a greater rate this year than most years before.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 weeks into the year, we had already had like 8. Now I don't know where we are.
We've had 18 at this point.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And so obviously we're having this conversation on the national stage about gun control. But the beautiful thing is these high schoolers, the survivors of this latest tragedy, are using their voices to speak truth to power. You know, so you have all these teenagers participating in town halls with
NRA spokespersons and congressmen
with leadership,
and they are bringing that teenage
brazen,
energy.
and they are unapologetic,
now,
and they are just saying what they feel, and what they feel is what we as a nation need to hear. And unfortunately, what so many people on certain sides of the aisle, or a certain side of the aisle, refuse to acknowledge.
I want to take a moment again to point out that there have been black kids doing this for generations now. They just haven't gotten the platform that these kids gotten, and thankfully part of that is because they haven't had spree shooters running up in their schools. Spree shootings don't happen in black schools. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's not really the conversation at hand.
Yeah, let's not
racialize it too tough.
Take it there.
But yeah, I love the kids. I love the little girl with the buzz cut. I love the clearly like very articulate
the young guy with dark hair
that is gonna be I hope
he called Marco Rubio to the carpet and was like, will you not accept can you promise that you won't accept any more donations from the NRA? And of course he couldn't, right? Because the NRA pads his pocket.
He said Donald Trump discussed him.
Yeah.
And that might have been a different one.
He just that kid, that was a different time. But
he's also been the target of like the typical right-wing conspiracy theories.
Yeah, that he is a
actor,
crisis actor, and all that kind of stuff. And I've ignored that stuff because it gets ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
I just want to touch on it real quick because I feel it in my spirit. Somebody that's listening to us, or somebody listening to us, is going to talk to somebody that either or believes this guy's a crisis actor and believes the earth is flat. And no, y'all, it doesn't make any like. First off, if there was a,
are they the same people, the flat earthers,
the same people that will believe that this is a crisis actor
can really
also think the earth is
need
flat.
to quarantine those people.
We can't quarantine them because they're not. It's like you quarantine something when it will fizzle out on its own, but these people seem to be multiplying, so we have to inoculate them. We have to anesthetize. Whatever it is, we got to fix it.
I don't know. I can't try the big words tonight.
Yeah, it's all right.
Messing up.
Because like it doesn't make like they've been doing this now. These shootings happen so much. There's like if this were a trick to get gun control to happen, it would have happened after somebody shot babies, which happened already.
Yeah.
When Adam Lanza went into the elementary school and shot kindergartners and first graders, like so. No, y'all, but that's it. That's all I'm giving y'all for the time we got left. So. Of course,
so
45.
the high schoolers are
staging
a protest. I think maybe mid-March.
March 14th.
Yes.
And then unfortunately April 20th. That part I'm not as psyched about.
I'm not going to get sidetracked. Where they're staging a walkout. So high schoolers all over the country are encouraged to walk out. And we had a brief conversation. Because this is Married to Shade, right? And like you said, we bring the how did you say it? A familial element of something or another. I don't know. It was so beautiful. So this is us bringing it. And so we had a conversation about our sons. And we typically tend to have these conversations around our older son because he's just going to realize more about life quicker than our youngest son. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, what do we let our oldest son participate in the walkout? And I think we both agreed.
Hell yeah.
That we would. I think we want to encourage our children to be aware of how not only their actions impact the lives of others, but how the actions of our leadership impact their lives and the lives of others. And when they can, I want to encourage them to let their voice be heard. And so this would be a time where if they wanted to lend their voice to this cause, I would be like, more power to you. So I would encourage other parents to think in that same way.
Yeah.
If your child is compelled to walk out.
Please encourage
and
them,
I'm just
support them.
excited about what these students are doing. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit of a cynic.
I'm not that cynical.
A
about
lot
this.
a bit of a cynic. And I just believe that we are just so lost and our leadership is just so easily bought and manipulated that there will be no real the necessary legislation.
So we need a both.
Will not make it to the floor
because the NRA somehow, with only 1.5 million members, manages to own the Republican Party, and that's not like so. 45 won with 65 million votes. But they got 1.5 million. You see what I'm saying? You see how that don't add up? Like, what would it take? Like, where is the NRA? For the NRB?
Because it's not a dollars for it's not a $1 per person sort of thing.
Well, I understand, but
the
still,
capital.
It's about, but like, why haven't we, considering the general sway of entertainment and media to be leaning left? Why? Where is our anti-lobby? Where's our antithesis to that? That can, because the kids are in the streets and I fucks with them. I love the meme that is like, these kids have been watching Hunger Games and Maze Runner and Harry Potter for the last 10 years. What did you think was going to happen when we started fucking with them?
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, yeah, you got a good point. I watch Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. That's not the same effect. So they're in the streets. They're doing what the youth are always best appointed to do, which is use that youthful energy to make an impact. And it's up to us as the elders, to them at least, to create the policy and the action, the long-lasting action in the spirit of that impact. And it's like, I don't know, we've talked about that before, but it's still February, so we aren't too far behind. But we talked about how we need to get better engaged
in our
making
community.
moves in our community, but no, like making bigger things, because I want to be a part of whatever the antithesis that NRA is, because clearly they got something. Because so I'm gonna move us along, right?
Because this is a perfect lead in to our next topic, and I know we have a limited amount of time. The way you be a part of the movement is you fly Delta.
I mean, as not just yet, we'll see. God willing, it doesn't have to become that serious. So y'all know we in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Y'all know we love Atlanta, and it's funny. Former
but
member
I'm
of the
scared
show,
for Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm scared right now. Former member of the show, Polo. You might remember him. You can check him out on A Perspective on YouTube.
Oh.
Little quick pub for you there, Polo, even though I know you're not listening to this. Because I'm also not watching.
But you should listen, because now we gave you
a free plug.
Little promotion.
But he's an Atlanta native, although technically he's from Decatur. And it seems like every 3 months, him or somebody we know that's an Atlanta native gets into this nostalgic, I miss old Atlanta. I don't like new Atlanta. In fact, we saw the
People
father.
need to stop.
We saw the
hating on
father of the
transplant.
5-year-old we don't like wearing that shirt. Did you notice he was wearing that shirt?
No,
the other
what did
day?
he wear?
He had just had an old Atlanta shirt on.
Oh, I didn't even think he's from Atlanta.
I don't know. I hope he is.
I don't know.
Otherwise,
But anyway,
he shouldn't be wearing that shirt. We're definitely new Atlanta, because we're not from Atlanta. But the point is that, so old Atlanta does, there is something to be lamented about the loss of the I don't know. There's a loving essence to where Atlanta was, because Atlanta's always had black money, and people don't realize that. We got remedial money, and we knew, but we got here and we're able to get remedial money because we're able to access the old black money that's been here for a couple of centuries now.
Yeah.
You know
I mean,
what I'm
Atlanta, you can't disrespect the foundation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Atlanta, we look at houses all the time, and something we often say is the house has good bones. It has good bones. Mm-hmm. And Atlanta had great bones. Right. It had great bones. So I'll give that to all the Atlanta natives. But transplants are the beauty.
We have pushed Atlanta along.
We are the reason. We took those very beautiful bones, that sturdy foundation, and on it,
we polished them.
A house that is on the map.
We put some art up.
Yes.
We created some new places to eat that's not just wing spots.
Yes.
All those things.
We need them.
And we helped fill the jobs of Delta and Coca-Cola and Turner and AT&T and Screen Gems and
I think
Disney
most of the transplants to Atlanta.
Google.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna keep going. You're gonna just keep going. And one day we will add Amazon to that list.
I don't know now
because
clearly old Atlanta is trying to make a comeback. So let's finish. Let's stop beating around the bush. So Delta, who is the biggest private employer in Georgia, not just Atlanta, in Georgia, 33,000 jobs from what I read today. They said, you know what? We're reading the tea leaves here. We're gonna just kind of end this NRA discount. Just we're gonna do that. And here come my lieutenant governor on Twitter doing his best 45 impersonation, talking about if the Delta does not reinstate their NRA such and such, we are gonna cut tax breaks for Delta, which even we for a moment today somehow we ended up on Conservative Talk Radio, and even they was like,
this is not a good idea.
What is not? This is a good idea. You're messing with the money.
This was local Conservative Talk Radio because, like you said, Delta employs is the largest private sector employer, and Delta, Atlanta has become a very branded city, right? Most places that you go in the city, you see big billboards or advertisements for some of the names that Feek has listed. So, Delta is all over the place. Like, much of my commute, much of Feek's commute is filled with Delta logos. Mm-hmm. Like, don't forget, you live in Delta land. And by the way, Delta is here.
And every once in a while, it's like a shady meme about how they don't fuck with Coca-Cola. And then then it's a Chick-fil-A sign up but we really run shit. And so, but you get the point. And so, for this dude to come out of his ass and be like, we gonna cut, first off, it's anti their principles, which we know they don't have them for real. They've proven that in the last year and a half, or the last 2 years, I guess, under Trump and Trump running for president. They've proven that they don't really have principles. They just use the concept of their principles to
their
galvanize
party
their
the
base.
Republican Party is fractured.
Now it's more fractured now than
it's very fractured. We without going into the antics of CPAC that just ended last week or a couple of days ago, whenever, who cares, who needs to pay attention,
right?
You're seeing more and more that their party is fractured. I heard Meghan McCain, who is, I'm gonna say she is right leaning center. I don't think she would be comfortable saying leaning left.
Probably.
But she's reasonable. Mm-hmm. And, I heard her say, as a Republican, you're constantly put into the position to defend the indefensible.
Right.
And many of them are getting sick of or are refusing now to defend the indefensible. Right. And she said she would not. And so that's what's going on. You have radicals at the helm, 45 being one, and the people who are rational are being pushed out. Who knows where they'll land? That as we when we begin to enter another election cycle, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out now that there's a big chasm in the party.
I'm still thinking John Kasich and Ron Paul are going to take another crack at it.
I don't know. I can't have that discussion tonight. What I know is they're falling apart. And so, like we said, we listened to Conservative Talk Radio. You even had conservatives, reasonable conservatives, saying this was just some ridiculous political grandstanding. This was,
But the problem is their
the
base is
lieutenant's governor shooting his shot, if you will.
Because he wants to run for governor.
And like people of reason just can't get behind it. First of all,
but the idiots too in Georgia, you got to remember that if the saying
but you don't what is it? Cut your nose to spite your face, chop off your nose to spite your face.
That's what their party is built upon.
I mean, that is what their party is doing right now.
No,
but that is
built upon. That is them.
It's a horrible business practice, right?
Not
so
if you're trying
a
to
company
win.
that brings millions upon millions upon millions, maybe billions of tax dollars to the state, like why would you pick this fight, right? Over a discount that is a privilege and not a requirement.
Right.
Delta is not required to give discounts. Well, I won't say to anybody because I don't really know, but I know the discount they afforded NRA members was not a requirement.
Right.
And so here you are sacrificing possibly jobs, sacrificing and damaging a long-standing, very fruitful and positive relationship for Atlanta and the state as a whole over
the wrong,
wrong
side of
some
over
BS.
This is more on the wrong than they usually are. You know what I'm saying?
Because this was
is about AR-15s.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of people that I've had to argue with about it's not gun. We don't have a gun problem. We have a people problem. Y'all, AR-15. We own a gun.
Yes, we do.
I've actually if you listen to the show, you may know this already. I am one of the rare Americans who's actually used my gun to defend my home.
Yes.
Thankfully, God bless, and I didn't hurt anybody, and I wasn't hurt in the process. But I am one of the very rare statistics. People always talking about I'm gonna defend myself and I'm gonna make sure my family's okay. And the real idiots are like, we got to be able to defend our country from tyranny and defend it from the government if the government oversteps. Because we gonna fire AR-15s and they gonna bomb us. But whatever, drone strikes and shit. But unless you are doing tactical warfare and trying to kill multiple people, there's no real reason to have an AR-15. If you are a drug lord in the SWATs or on the Wild Hunters in Chicago or whatever part of New Orleans that isn't the hood.
You handled that tactfully.
You missed it, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You said whatever part of whatever.
Then maybe you get an AR-15 because you might catch a real raid on your shit. But if you are just a person that is into guns, then I just do the extra test.
Lords.
No, I'm just saying.
You guys are deserving of AR-15.
No, they're not
for
deserving.
The rest of us, who live normal
I probably didn't.
lives,
I have shown my argument.
We don't need those.
My
guns.
point is, there's no reason to have an AR-15 for home defense. There's no reason to have an AR-15.
There's no reason to have an AR-15.
There's no reason to have an AR-15.
There's no reason to.
But I will not go as far.
To hunt, there's just no reason.
Some people need the AR-15 to jerk off or to fuck in general. And so I'm not gonna take away their spank material. There's people that really, really, really like
Maybe
their
that's
guns.
The case.
They usually have small penises. Excuse me. So, if you are one of those people with little dicks that don't want to give up your AR-15, I'm not even saying you have to release your AR-15. I'm saying from here on out, nationwide, if you want an AR-15 or some type of super little dick big gun, then you need to go through multiple processes before you get that. You shouldn't be able to go buy from a Walmart in 15 minutes. And that's how you can do it right now. You should either be ex-military, meaning you already went through real training, or you got to go through several psychological evaluations, several training classes, you got to get a license.
You're talking about a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Because to your point, we have a gun. It is not an AR-15.
Right.
But through lived experience, we can tell you it does the job.
Right.
We were able
for defending your home.
Yes,
from
we were
a
able
normal
to defend
situation.
our home. And so it's just unnecessary. But back to the Delta thing. Back to the lieutenant governor.
To wrap it up, the funniest part was as soon as that tweet went viral, and let me find the post. As soon as that tweet went viral, it was like Delta changed its status to single, and every other city in the country was in Delta's DMs talking
And
about
y'all get out of Delta's DMs.
Get out of Delta's DMs,
This is just
New York.
this is just
Birmingham,
a domestic
fucking
squabble.
Birmingham. Delta don't want you, nigga.
Look, this is a domestic
Yo,
squabble.
raggedy ass.
Okay, you don't want to get mean. Shout out to
Birmingham.
You like Birmingham?
But his Andrew
Cuomo.
Cuomo. If Georgia politicians disagree with your stand against gun violence, we invite you to move your headquarters to New York. Hey Delta, Virginia is for lovers and airline hubs. You're welcome here anytime. Like
y'all are ridiculous. Like, get out of Delta's DMs. Look, we've been together for a long time, and when you've been together for a long time, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna fight, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, you may do that in public, but we're gonna get it together.
And Amazon,
we're gonna get it together.
Listen, don't let this situation with Delta make you think that we can't treat you right too.
Yes, we are polygamous here.
Come through.
And we take.
Through.
Is that a good analogy to say we're polygamous?
I think so.
I don't know because we have a lot of brands. But either way, Amazon.
Or better yet, Amazon is the polygamer, and we one of the sister wives. They got like 3 other headquarters. And we just we just want to be down, Amazon.
We just want to be down.
We just want peace.
We're good, and we'll fall in line. We'll fall in line. You know, so please don't kick us out of the running.
So now the moment you've all been waiting for, the return of the shady moment in history. You thought it was
always
gone.
In the show. We could always end the show.
We're gonna hit a nice round.
Tired,
we're gonna hit a nice round, hour and 30 minutes. So we can talk about today's shady moment in history. Today, February 27th, 19.
I want the sites to shut down that you find this information.
34. One Ralph Nader was born. Hold on.
Oh, he's losing it.
Oh fuck! No,
he's losing
this is the person I thought, right?
He's losing it.
No. Yes. Okay. I was right. I'm gonna edit that part out. So today, 1934, Ralph Nader was born. And I bring up Ralph Nader to just take a quick moment to throw shade at the many people I knew who kept saying it ain't gonna be that bad, or Hillary was just as bad, or just all those things.
I think the reasonable ones are regretting it.
I think they are too.
I think
but
you don't
that
have
don't
to
mean
throw it
I
in
don't.
their face
No,
anymore.
I still do. They have it coming.
No, it just serves to divide us. I think at some point we just let people deal with their own mistakes.
Fuck that. Y'all are stupid, and I told you. Y'all.
I'm on my Van Jones. I'm ready for conversation.
Fuck Van Jones too.
I'm just ready to forgive so we can move on in a positive direction.
No, I said if y'all let this man in office, it's not just having a bad president. You are legitimizing and making mainstream white supremacy. And if there's one thing he's done that will not be easily undone, it is the newfound presence of white supremacy in our daily lives. Not on internet trolls and forums, not in underground video tapes and their version of World Star Hip Hop or whatever it is.
Nazi sympathizer at
they're at
CPAC.
CPAC. They're in the White House. They're running for They're running for Senate in Illinois. They're running for Senate in New Orleans or Louisiana.
Always happens there.
They're running for Senate in Tennessee. They are here now, and if they are not stopped soon, we will not be able to get rid of them. It's kind of like roaches or fleas. You have a certain point where you got to get them all at once, or you will spend so much time and resources getting rid of them. And I bring that up for Ralph Nader because Ralph Nader's biggest claim to fame, for those who are under the age of 25, maybe, because was this our first? Not even yours. This is my first time voting in an election. Ralph Nader ran for the Green Party, and much like then, because at that point in time it was George H.W. Bush and Al Gore running for president, and just like then, there were these holier than thou, purity. The Clintons are corrupt. The Clintons do this, do that. Don't get me wrong, I get it. And so they didn't want to deal with that reality, so they decided they were going to waste their vote on Ralph Nader. And Ralph Nader pulled just enough votes from Al Gore to lose the election. Mm-hmm. And we get 8 years of George W. Bush. And it's the exact same situation here because Jill Stein and what's the libertarian dude that didn't know shit name? Duke Johnson.
I don't
Lane
know.
Johnson. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a word to the wise because we got to get it in order and come up with a better strategy.
There are midterm elections happening this year.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be more in 2020. Please do not lose the fire that you're seeing these kids carry for us. These kids, most of which will not be able to vote.
Yeah.
Make it happen, y'all.
We have to. That was a good one.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
So
I
my other shady
appreciated that
moment in
one.
history.
No, no, enough.
No, that's it. So thank you all again for this extra large episode of Married to Shade.
Hopefully you enjoy it.
Hopefully you enjoyed it. No, so we gotta do all the shit. This is brought to you by Black Astronauts Podcast. Again, check us out on Twitter, blackastronauts.com. You can find me at Feek Blurredman, FIQ_BLERDMAN on Twitter. The website, I did a couple of cool things this week. Released 2 blogs on website. My favorite thing though was the infographic I created.
Yes, about cosplay.
About whether or not you can cosplay as do Black Panther cosplay.
So please share it.
Share it. I want to go viral. I've been trying to go
Sharing
viral for like
is caring.
5-6 years.
Sharing is caring.
I got close.
Is there money in going viral?
No, but like it
okay, so
feels
we don't
good.
care. Just share.
Okay,
Sharing
share
is
it
caring.
anyway.
Let your friends know.
check
Don't
out
get
my
them
Twitter.
caught up. We did see some disasters while we were at the movie.
Yeah, we did see a guy in like a German porn mustache and a full dashiki, white guy. He was with his Nigerian wife. Some people are okay with it. I
was slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to unpack that. Maybe I was wrong, but I was uncomfortable. Saw a white guy in a Black Lives Matter shirt.
I want to take a picture of them together
with that at all.
Yeah, that's like
so.
Right and wrong with
so yeah. So look at the infographic and
yeah, and just check us out.
Check it out.
All right. With that said, baby, I love you.
Love you too. Peace.
Peace.